My name is Dr. Edie Dallahan, and I am the Scientific Program Director of adMare's Bioinnovation Scientist Program. It's my privilege today to talk you through a few bits about adMare, who we are, what we do, what our goals are, particularly as it pertains to training. We really do three things: build companies, we build ecosystems, and we build talent. We build companies because we have the specialized expertise, infrastructure, and capital to take cutting-edge research and turn it into Canadian life science companies. We build dynamic such as our Vancouver and Montreal innovation centers to enable the development of new made-in-Canada innovations and scale up Canadian life science companies into anchor companies for the growth of Canada. Through our adMare Academy, we are training the next generation of highly qualified personnel to drive Canada's life science industry. I think it's a really exciting time to be part of the Canadian life sciences ecosystem. And I can say that, you know, in the early days when I was in a biotech company quite some time ago, much of the drive and the need that we had was to raise money. More and more now, we see that not only are we seeing a great growth in investments for the sector as a whole, but we're also hearing the increased demand now for a strong job-ready force. So things have changed. Rather than money being that pain point, it's accessing the highly qualified personnel that we need to drive these companies. And if you have a look at this figure here, it's a little hard to read. But what was really interesting to us as we reached out to companies to see what it is the main pain points are and where they need help, it's actually developing job-ready scientists that can transition over from academia, that have all the professional skills you need, these soft skills. And that's something we took real notice of as we developed the Bioinnovation Scientist Program. This is a look at 4 arms of the adMare Academy. We are training the next generation of highly qualified personnel through the first one I'll mention is our undergraduate institute. That's our co-op program. Program, you get 8 months of real hands-on lab skills in our laboratories. And I will say that over the years, I have seen our co-op students really grow, move on, finish their degrees, go to grad school. Some of them have come back and done postdocs with us. Some of them have stayed with us for years. And they will all tell you that the period of time that they spent as a co-op with adMare was a time where they really learned the skills they knew they would need to develop a career in biotech. Moving on from that, we have a doctoral fellowship. It is a 2-year research intensive fellowship for recent PhD. It drug development experience in adMare labs. Really does enable you to move out afterwards into a qualified position in biotechnology. What I'm mainly speaking to you about today is the Bioinnovation Scientist Program. This is an asynchronous program that you actually take at your own pace. And the purpose of it is to transition scientists into commercially minded scientists. I do want to mention our Executive Institute. This is a custom designed executive development program, and I have a couple of notes at the end of my talk about it. I do want to mention that for this we are supported by Pfizer, and we are having the program delivered by the Center for Creative Leadership. So the Bioinnovation Scientist Program, this is what you see, a range of modules dealing with all those soft skills and also some of them more technical skills, which I can speak to on the next slide. We felt the curriculum was really pulled together senior scientists, among them decades of industrial drug development experience, so that we could actually build something that would be of huge benefit. I personally interviewed 15 of our previous postdocs to ask them, what were the parts of your training with us that were the most benefit when you left and moved on into your careers? Build on the success of the Postdoctoral Institute for this. I have a slide that will come up soon where I can actually show you the outcomes that we have seen for our postdocs, and I think it speaks for itself. The Bioinnovation Scientist Program, 3 levels. Each one has its own objective that aims at overarching objective to broaden the perspective, network, and those crossover skills of early junior scientists to accelerate the technologies to market here in Canada. And this is what the program looks like. BIS Level 1 participants, foundational and collaborative skills. This is back to those soft skills that I showed you on slide 3. This is what we find when we talk to young biotech companies. They want people that can come in with the technical skills, but also with an understanding of what it takes to be part of a team. Foundational skills, what is assertive communication, how do you develop critical thinking and problem solving, how do you now set smart goals because you're part of a team? There is a lot to be done and you have a role to play. Also, collaborative innovation skills. How do you coach your team to higher performance? How do you yourself develop as the kind of leader you would like to be? And that is, how do you enable other people in your team to do well? All of that in these modules here. It is important to understand in drug development what drug development actually is. We have numerous modules from UC San Diego that I think are absolutely excellent in discussing what discovery is, what the process is from target selection to screening to identifying, to understand the various drug discovery tools that there are. We know that right now, something like 50% of all drugs in clinical trials are biologics. What does that mean? What does that mean for the industry? We need to understand the regulatory and the filing of INDs. If your life to now has been in an academic lab, these may be terms that you've never had to understand or learn. Also, obviously, as part of drug development, we have product registration and approval, and what is your role in this as a bench scientist? The one that I found most interesting was looking at commercialization and looking at pharmacoeconomics in drug development. And I was at a meeting this week where someone was giving a talk from Merck. I found it really interesting that reimbursement after your drug has been approved can take 15 to 44 months. And when you're in a small biotech company, you start to understand the need of the company to raise funds and to really be competitive. And how do you do that if there's no reimbursement coming down the pipe? And so you start to understand from this the pain points of a company and the need for real good, strong business principles to drive a company. It's not just science. And I'm very proud that we actually did some internal content here. I worked with our Senior Director of Project Management, Dr. Doug Erfel, on this program, where we developed a workshop that addressed preparation of a target product profile. And typically when your life has been in academia, the target product profile may be something that you have never heard of. And it's really when you start to see what your as your company on the road, hoping eventually a larger pharma for the phase 2 and phase 3, but at least developed down here that would enable a strong drug to be made. And this is an integration workshop where our participants get an opportunity to actually produce a target product profile of their own. So I've had a lot of feedback on this course that one participant said to me it was actually the high point for her of the whole bioinnovation scientist program. So I was really interested to hear that. But I did say I was going to talk a little bit about where our postdocs have gone. 96% of our postdoctoral academy alumni are now successfully employed in top life science organizations. 83% of those organizations are in Canada. And I'm sure as you look at companies that you very well recognize, Precision Nanosystems has been in the news many times recently because of their role in developing the liposomal nanoparticles that have become, you know, of many new opportunities in delivery. Vivo, who have just entered clinical trials for a COVID vaccine. Their VP of R&D was one of our postdocs. Kept in touch with most of these people, and you know, in going back and interviewing and asking them, postdoc actually aided them in their careers. Every one of them said put them head and shoulders above where they would have been if they had just had their academic. So I think that this just speaks to the fact that if you are interested in a career in biotech, I would certainly encourage any of the participants here today to sign up for the bioinnovation program. I actually, about over a year ago now, had a conversation with the Prime team, Precision Medicine Initiative, out of the U of T, and actually research administrators, Angela Zhao, take the course and really in a way to audit it and see if it was something they wanted to offer to their cohorts. And this was what she had to say. She said the bioinnovation was an insightful experience in understanding the diversity of skills, accelerating science to commercialization. And since Angela has taken this course, 2 of their cohorts have had the BIS presented to them and recommended to them as something that would be of benefit to them. And we have had many of them sign up, which is, I think, really encouraging. I did say I would mention a little bit about the Executive Institute. And of course, this is training the next generation of highly qualified personnel to drive the growth of Canadian companies into strong anchors by taking those that are now moving from early career into really standing up as tomorrow's leaders. This is a 10-month custom-designed executive development program. It actually is limited to a maximum of 20 executive life science professionals. It has been supported by Pfizer, which we're very grateful, and we have the program delivered with the Center for Creative Leadership. We are, in this program, firmly committed to addressing issues of gender disparity and to supporting diversity in the Canadian life sciences sector, and I think that is borne out by the 20 current accepted personnel that is in this year's cohort. I think that's really important. Eric Leduc, this is what he had to say. He is the CEO and co-founder of Immune Biosolutions in Sherbrooke, and he said, applying to the Executive Institute, investment you can make for your career and for your organization. You meet incredible people and will be a much better leader at the end of the program. And I think that's a great recommendation, and I've heard similar recommendations from many of the folks that have actually gone through the program. In our new COVID world, I think we've learned a couple of things. Canada needs strong life science industry leaders and a dynamic and well-connected national ecosystem like never before. And I think that COVID taught us that. We have had to all get a bit creative in building new ways to safely and effectively come together, which is why this conference is virtual. One of the things that adMare has done is created a digital sciences community, a way that we can actually all interact right across the country. This community enables you to connect, to work and stay up to date with your peers from across Canada's national life sciences community. It enables you to share and discuss the latest industry news, which we post on there weekly. And I think that that's really important, to be aware what's happening in Canada. But it also enables you to expand, broaden, and build professional relationships and access professional development, mentorship, and collaboration opportunities. Every member of the Bioinnovation Scientist Program joins the community. It is open in Canada, but they join so that they can interact with their peers. And modules that we've put together, we have requests of them that they post what they thought of that module, or if they can give an example of when what they learned they practice, or when they found out that it was true. And so I would really recommend for anyone today interested in signing up for the Bioinnovation Scientist Program to also take a look at the adMare community. And you know, when you are a young professional, one of the things that becomes very obvious, there's a need to be aware of the job market, what's happening in the industry, what is available to them. And so we have included a job board that has upward of 200 postings at any one time. And so for anyone that's looking to either transition into a new area in their career, or just to know what opportunities are available, this is where you want to be. And I will say that all adMare postings also go onto the community posting board. So with that, I will end, and I would love to have some questions. And please connect with us on Twitter and on our page. And please feel free also with me. I'm on LinkedIn and Twitter also. Thank you. Just to mention that in the discussion forum there, we have posted some links, and we have posted links to our Twitter, also to the community, and also to the Bioinnovation Scientist Program. So the link is there so that you can actually sign up today. And we would be very, very happy to speak to anyone on here that has any questions about it. I have a question here from Sarah. How long does it take to complete the BIS program? And that's an excellent question, Sarah. Pretty much, as I said at the beginning, it's an asynchronous, self-managed program. So we do have people that go through it rather fast, just because they can. We think it's averages out at around 55 hours of work. I will say that a number of participants have said to me that are still in the lab, they're finishing their studies, they'll be running a gel, or they'll be using the flow cytometer, and they'll be doing the modules as they go along with it. And those folks finish rather fast. But I think a lot of it comes down to how busy you are. You know, a lot of people have young families, so they can't spend time at the weekend looking at these things. And that's why we felt it was really important for it to be self-managed. No one's going to chase you and say, this is taking too long. This is something that is there to serve you and help you. And we wanted it to be as comfortable and as easy as possible. So I hope that helps. Oh, and Jennifer has said the presentation froze for her. I'm not sure if that happened for anyone else. I really hope it didn't, Jennifer. But if you would like to get in touch with me, we do have links that we can send you with the presentation on it. So feel free to reach out to me for that. I'm not seeing any more questions. I will actually also say it's quite important for us that we developed the program using funds from our sponsors and from our federal funds. And so there is no cost to our participants. And one of the other things that was really important to us was that this program was available to anyone that was working and studying in Canada. And therefore, we included in that any international students that are here studying. And we felt it was really important that they had the same opportunity as anybody else to be able to complete the program. And I've had a lot of feedback that has been very, very well received. And Jennifer, I think someone has just put a link that the presentation is available through the adMare community and has given you a link there. So I hope that helps. And I hope the presentation didn't freeze for too many people. And maybe I can just use this time to speak a little bit to other parts of the program. We recently edited and updated the program. And it's interesting to me, I've worked in drug development for more than 20 years, and I've seen such great changes. For instance, when I was first working in infectious diseases, all drug development was small molecule. And that is a big significant change now when you see the percentage of biologics going through drug development. So we need to know, we need to be constantly looking at the program and editing and making changes, because we're in a dynamic field. I think COVID brought about a lot of changes. I think one of the areas that Canada really found themselves caught short was in biomanufacturing. We couldn't manufacture our own vaccines. I don't think that will ever happen again. I think the federal government has poured a lot of money into making sure that it doesn't. So we want to reflect that when we are choosing and curating our modules, that we cover off on issues like that. So it's going to be a moving target, I think, forever, that we're going to have to constantly edit and update, because this field is changing. And how fantastic is that to see this dynamic ecosystem in Canada go from strength to strength. And as someone that did their training in England, I can tell you that Canada punches so way above its weight. And it would be great to see that reflected in the growth of anchor companies within our ecosystem. So I'm very excited to be part of the Canadian landscape. And then I have another question here from Marjan. Thank you. And thank you for that lovely comment. And you ask if adMare provides any specific programs for the early stage startups. I would say that for an early stage startup, it would be worth reaching out to our business teams and asking if they would be open to giving you advice. I'm not sure if it would come under any specific programs, but I'm sure that would be something worth discussing. So adMare has a team of scientists that look at potential programs, and we work with a number of small startups, actually assisting them to scale up. And it could even be that there's science that needs to happen, or targets that need to be validated. And if it's something that adMare thinks there's value in coming behind, then they will. So I would suggest that you reach out to us, and maybe I can put you in touch with the appropriate people to have a discussion. And I really hope that would help. And I know that when I was here working as head of target validation, we validated a lot of targets for young biotechs that enabled them to really have faith that the road they were going down was the right one. And that was a huge part of what I did for my first years with this organization. And I think we just have 3 minutes left. So if you've got any question that you'd like to ask, we would really like to hear from you. Oh, and there's a message here. Please remember to fill in the end of session exit survey. Your feedback is most valuable. So can I encourage you to actually just spend a couple of minutes doing that, because it really does help the organizers. I have another question here. I would like to know how we might value extension in the process of training the next generation of science leaders. I'm not completely sure what you are asking me. Unless you're talking about the time that it takes, because that's one of the things in science. We've already done so many years to get our grad studies. One of the things I do encourage those that are going through grad studies, if you know you're going to want to transition to a company, and there's an area of whether it's looking at big data or regulatory affairs, start taking those courses before you finish your grad studies, because otherwise, you're going to end up extending your training process out a long way. But I would say that, I think the Bioinnovation Scientist program is brief enough that it doesn't extend it too far. And maybe if you'd like to have a conversation around that with me, please reach out to me on LinkedIn. And it's a really interesting thought. And just a note from Erin that I will read out, that, and I completely hope that you will feel free to connect with any of us on LinkedIn or join us on the adMare community. We are passionate about helping people to be job ready. And I do agree with Erin there. It is a passion of ours to see that next generation start to stand up and lead the Canadian life sciences in the future. And I think that is my final comment. Thank you.